Good evening and welcome. You're watching Left, Right and Centre with me, Sanket Upadhyay. Two stories that we're going to track this evening. Story number one, there is a very strong Modi stamp on the decision to go with a Dhami despite the fact that he lost his own seat, to go with a Pramod Sawant despite the fact that there was a lot of conversation that Mr. Vishwajit Rane be chosen instead. There was an alliance partner willing to back also. However, the strong Modi stamp in Dhami, Sawant as well as N. Biren Singh shows that it is Mr. Modi's decision all the way. All these crucial decisions taken in a late night Sunday meeting right here at the Prime Minister's residence. But will this same theory hold for Uttar Pradesh? While the Chief Minister is Yogi Adityanath, what about his lieutenants, his deputies? Will they have a Modi stamp? Or will it be a Yogi government, a BJP government or a Yogi government in Uttar Pradesh? We're going to put that to a small discussion in just a short moment from now. Also on the show, the NDA now is the biggest bloc in Rajya Sabha. Is this ease of doing business for the BJP and for the government? I mean, so far it was easy sailing in Lok Sabha, but a difficult situation in the Rajya Sabha. Is that problem completely gone? But with that comes a new problem, which political opponents are saying has to do with railroading. Will one see that more frequently in Parliament? But first, as we will put that to discussion later, first let's quickly take a look at this presentation on an analysis of the decision that Narendra Modi has taken. So yes, there are no surprises, but is this a Modi gamble? Well, the BJP has repeated all four chief ministers in the states that it won. But despite losing, let's take a look at this one by one. Despite losing his seat, Pushkar Singh Dhami has been cleared for the position of Uttarakhand Chief Minister. This could in fact be seen as an attempt to contain the factional divide in the BJP's Uttarakhand unit. Dhami will now have to win the by-polls in about 6 months from now. Let's shift to Goa, where Pramod Sawant, again no surprise, was the existing Chief Minister, has been declared the Chief Minister again. This decision taken even as Vishwajit Rane's name emerged as one of the frontrunners. There are support of independents which have ensured that the BJP goes ahead with its choice of Pramod Sawant. Now both these names were cleared in a meeting at the Prime Minister's residence last night. But all eyes will be on the very crucial Uttar Pradesh, where while the Chief Minister has not been changed and the elections were fought in the leadership of Yogi Adityanath, but despite losing, will Keshav Prasad, a man who was seen very close to Modi and Shah, be made the Deputy Chief Minister? Maurya was seen in a meeting with Prime Minister ahead of the UP elections. All governments have seen a very clear Modi-Shah influence, but is UP going to be different? And that is the most contentious bit. What decision is going to be taken as far as Yogis Cabinet is concerned, which has seen certain sparks between the centre as well as the state? Is UP going to see a Yogi government or a Modi government? And that, in a sense, is the main question over here. What will happen in Uttar Pradesh? Because we have seen things taking a very different turn as far as UP is concerned. I would like to introduce our guest, Sabha Naqvi, author and a senior journalist with us. Dr. Amiben Yagnik, Rajya Sabha MP and spokesperson of the Congress Party, is also with us, and Ranbir Singh Pathania, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Pathania, I want to begin with you first. All these states, all decisions that have been taken, there is no surprise at all. I mean, one started to expect that some surprising decisions will be taken each time, because, that's now the nature of the BJP, to trump people, that you may be thinking along predictable lines, but we'll do something different. None of that has been done this time around. But what will happen in the case of Uttar Pradesh? We've seen that 6 months ago, there was a bit of a discomfort between what Yogi wanted and what Modi wanted, and then eventually it all worked out for the best for you. But will the same happen in the future as well?
We are a committed and a cadre-based organization, sir, with a slight, we could say, divergence with what you said. There was two focal points there was a bit of disagreement while totally taking a different line. We are a people-friendly, we are a cadre-based organization. The soul and the sentiment of the people, we the people of India, but we call and we the people of Uttar Pradesh, is reflected in the government's working, in the selection of the leader, and vis-a-vis the decision of center versus states. All such assertions, all such, we could say, stories which pivot around, or we could say, which give fuel to such hallucinations and such, we could say, a roller coaster, we could say, very safer rides. We dispute and deny that. There is nothing of the sort. The central government is totally standing like a rock behind the government in place in Uttar Pradesh. That's why the government in Uttar Pradesh has been able to perform despite worst conditions. What were those worst conditions? Created by a section of media and by a section of politicians in Uttar Pradesh. Many, we could say, canards, half-truths, and we could say certain canvassing on, we could say, caste lines, canvassing on, we could say, on the exaggerated, we could say, the fume over the farm bills. We disputed and we fought against all the odds. We proved ourselves, and be assured, nothing of the sort.
No, Mr.
Whatsoever
Mr.
you are
Patania,
trying
so
to
the
make
point
it out,
is,
sir, nothing of the sort. We are in total one line.
okay, you spoke about farm laws. The point is, it is the central government that repealed the farm laws, not the media, not the opposition. It is the central government. If you were so convinced about the farm laws, you should have let them be. But the point is, an electoral win was more important, and it's really obvious. I mean, I know it is difficult for you to admit this, but this is realpolitik. The Prime Minister decided that winning an election is more important, and he won the election. True to the manner in which the BJP operates, like a lean, mean machine, you won the election. But, you know, the virtue signaling around this may not be correct. Ami-Ben Yagnik, I want to come to you now. You see, the point is, do whatever you may. There was a very strong opposition. There was very obvious resentment and anger also against the BJP, but they managed to win, all right? Now, do you think that the manner in which the BJP, after having taken 11 long days, one would assume that they will, after, winning an election, form governments quickly. They took 11 long days to arrive at a conclusion in Manipur, in Uttarakhand, as well as in Goa. And in Uttar Pradesh, the contentious decisions still remain a suspense. What do you think is holding them back?
See, first and foremost is that the Bharatiya Janata Party is a complete power-centric party. It only wants power. However, it wants power, and that is why you have seen there was opposition, there were strong points on the ground, there was enough data to show that there were several failures in different states, yet the Bharatiya Janata Party won. They do not wait for catching hold of people who are winnable. They do not even think twice that, yes, this is not the fair procedure. They only worry about the power. And I think the Honorable Prime Minister is almost acting not as the Prime Minister of the country, but of a particular party. And so power matters too much for him as well as the Bharatiya Janata Party. So in that case, even if there is slightest dissent, they would take time to see that only their or his decision works, and that is why so many days there is no democracy in the party, there is no some kind of a procedure that is followed, and however it should be the decision. In certain cases, if you will see other states, there will be no repeat theory. They will conveniently use whatever policy they want to bring to the fore to see that they remain, the power is with them in a certain way.
Dr.
And so I think no need to say that there is a
political parties. For instance, the Congress party had a huge problem with with the BJP's ideology, with Hindutva. And then you have no issues accepting the Shiv Sena's version of Hindutva, which I don't know how is different from the BJP's version, but you're in a government. Similarly, different strokes for different folks is also the policy of the Congress party. So do you think what you're saying to criticize the Congress, criticize the BJP is something which all political parties do? The Congress has also taken its sweet time in forming government.
All political parties. Yes, but I think it is not as power thirsty as the current situation shows, because when you say that you shifted to this particular ideology of Hindutva with another party, I think that is not the way a democracy works. You know, the parties sit and deliberate and talk, and the different parties have different definitions of their own ideology, and they walk that path. But this is a convenient path which, and that path is only of power, come what may. Here we find that whatever is happening, there might be dissent, there might be people who might have been promised that right now you can support, this is what the BJP is standing for, and if we will win, this will happen, that will happen. But then it changes over as soon as the election results are there. So
sure,
we may not compare the current BJP's machinery with every other party. Every other party takes its time, and especially Congress definitely has a very, very strong democratic process. It follows that path, and it does with that, and you see it is as crystal clear.
Okay.
You may say that yes, it aligned with a certain party, but then at that time there is a dialogue and democratic process involved in that.
Okay. Okay. I mean, if I ask Mr. Pathania, he'll say there is democracy involved in their decision making also. Anyway, Sabha Naqvi, how would you see? Do you feel that the reason why the BJP Sabha is taking so much time, and its own sweet time, 11, 12 long days to decide on these crucial things, is because this is less about 2022 and a little bit more about 24. To get the house in order, to make sure that in these 2 years there is no dissent, nothing wrong, no factionism.
Hi, Sanket. I must say that the BJP does work together and pull together, even when there are very big differences between leaders. Over years of covering the BJP, I've noted that. I think what is significant for me is that Mr. Dhami, having been defeated, has been made a chief minister. That certainly creates a precedent to bring Keshav Prasad Maurya in some sort of a position. That is the first takeaway from there.
Correct.
Secondly, you are absolutely right. We have to see, but ultimately it is going to be Yogi's cabinet. Let's understand this. Earlier, when he was a selected chief minister, also he asserted himself, unlike all the other chief ministers of the BJP, who literally resign or step in at the bidding of the New Delhi High Command. Yogi Adityanath never did so. Now that he has actually won an election, there is very little likelihood that he is going to take instructions, or he will agree, unless he agrees in the larger corporate interest of the cause for which they all ideologically work together. He will not be bullied and he will not be ordered. I think that should be quite clear to all of us. So these are the issues. It will definitely, in the coming years, he's got 5 years, it will be Yogi's government. It will, in the middle, we will have an election, a national election where the MPs from UP will be crucial, and surely they will all hang in together in the larger corporate interest that the BJP does. But Yogi Adityanath is young. He is being seen as a future leader of the BJP. He has won an election this time. He is not selected, he is elected. It will be his government and he will put his stamp on it. Whatever happens immediately, I don't know, but in the long term, it is inevitable that Yogi will have his way. He has won. It is his mandate. Just as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he won Gujarat, when there was Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee in Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had his way on many things. So that is the nature of what the powers that the federal structure gives a state chief minister. So, however, they will also work together in the larger corporate interest. So it is not a simple.
No, but you do admit that the BJP handles its internal crisis well.
Yes,
they have their moments. Like for instance, 6-8 months ago, there was a crisis in Uttar Pradesh leadership, but they managed it and handled it.
That's because look at the Congress. I mean, I am very fond of Army Ben, but look what's happening right now. But I don't want to go there. That's not even a story worth. We have something more important to discuss right now. The BJP does handle crises well. You know it. What I would like to know, and I know you've not raised that subject, Sanket,
Sure.
but you did it. Now that Yogi is in the saddle, now that whatever happens, whoever the cabinet is, and because you reported on it and I reported on it, I'm very interested to know. I reported in print, you did it in television in a very compelling. How will they now handle the cattle problem? I really want to know. I spent I have great interest in
This is a huge problem. And my point is, whatever political maneuvering that Mr. Pathania, that the BJP will do, manage, do this, do that, caste equation, that equation, BJP is very good with. But if you don't handle the issues on the ground, you will have a problem. Whatever cabinet person you get, you will have a problem in 2024. And this victory may have come due to the maneuvering and the hard work of your party, but the point is the anger was real. The cattle anger on the ground was real.
I disagree, sir.
Unemployment, you disagree.
If you attribute this win to only maneuvering, so let us first of all accept that BJP is at its best in maneuvering the situation, sir. In maneuvering the public mandate and virtually coming once again in Uttar Pradesh, creating history.
No, I didn't say maneuvering maneuvering a mandate. I said maneuvering a win.
Sir,
it's not said in a negative context, by the way.
Not at all, sir. Not at all, sir.
It's to your credit that you have done it.
Let's congratulate Mr. Pathania.
Absolutely.
We are not. None of us are attacking.
Nobody is here to criticize the BJP unnecessarily. A win is a win is a win. But the point is the real problems on the ground. Do you think that whatever you may do in your cabinet, you'll be able to contain and control the anger?
If we put it in the language of cricket, sir. So now government has no popular chief minister has been able to repeat itself in Uttar Pradesh. That means that we are good bowlers and we don't allow anybody to complete his second term. And now we have switched on to a second century in a second inning, we could say, with a follow-on to the other political party. That means we are very good at cricketing, we are very good at batting, we are very good at bowling, and we are very good at fielding, and we could at planning certain situations out of it, sir. Anyhow, there remains a scope for improvement. There remains a scope for creating such things. But my point is, I wanted to demonstrate in my first leg of my argument, sir, that all such myths, all such half-truths, all such, we could say, a sort of misconception which was sought to be created on the political spectrum of India and particularly Uttar Pradesh, they have been set at rest by first of all, I said, why again and again said on your channel, we believe in the politics of performance. We believe in the politics of inclusiveness. We don't believe in creating issues out of thin air, then sticking relentlessly to it.
Sure. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how you will manage expectations of your own with a Keshav Prasad Maurya. Will he remain a deputy chief minister after losing? Because you have just done that in Uttarakhand. So it'll be very interesting. I mean, more than any other state, this UP space for the next 3-4 days is going to be very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Let's quickly shift to our discussion number 2, and that has to do with Rajya Sabha. You see, in the Rajya Sabha now, the NDA is the biggest bloc. Does this mean ease of doing business for the government? Now, why do we say this? Let's quickly take a look at the presentation on your screen right now. So, as far as the BJP is concerned, this is how the Rajya Sabha at this moment looks like. So, in Rajya Sabha, you've got the BJP, which is at 104, the Congress at 27, TMC at 13, and these are all parties who sit in opposition. According to this strength, the current strength of 237, the halfway mark is around 117. And with BJP at 104, and many of its alliance partners, for instance, you join the JDU, then you've got other players who tend to abstain or not vote. And the moment they do that, the strength of the house comes down. So there is a natural advantage to the Bharatiya Janata Party whenever that happens. So the big question over here, the big question on your screen right now is that now that the NDA is the biggest bloc in Rajya Sabha, does this mean that the government wants to, propagate and promote ease of doing business? But in parliamentary business, will this mean ease of doing business for government very, very clearly? And also, another more important thing is that, see, they have a majority in Lok Sabha. Now they are the biggest bloc in Rajya Sabha, by far the biggest. Does this mean that we run a risk of the government steamrolling legislation, railroading legislation? Let's put that to a discussion. Satish Chandra Dubey, Rajya Sabha MP of the BJP, as well as Dr. Amiben Yagnik, also a Rajya Sabha MP of the Congress Party. The Rajya Sabha debate on the channel. Mr. Dubey, आपसे मैं शुरू करना चाहता हूं और मेरा पहला सवाल यही है, आपको नहीं लगता है कि ये पिछले 7-8 साल का जो एक ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड रहा है, हमने देखे हैं कि कई कानून सरकार ने बिल्कुल एकदम चटपट लेकर के आ गए. यू डिड नॉट वेट फॉर डिबेट, डिस्कशन, और बहुत जल्दी अफरा तफरी में आपने यू मैनेज्ड, फ्लोर स्ट्रेटजी वाज सच दैट यू मैनेज्ड टू गेट द लॉज पास्ड. आपको लगता है कि ये भले ही आप अब सबसे बड़े दल हो गए हैं राज्यसभा में, लेकिन ये आलोचना अब और तेज हो जाएगी कि आप अभी बिल्कुल मतलब एकदम ना कोई चर्चा ना कुछ, सीधा अपना आप लेजिस्लेशन पास कर लेंगे?
देखिए, ऐसा है कि आलोचना तो एक पार्ट होता है राजनीति का. जब अच्छा आप काम करेंगे तब भी आलोचना होगा, काम में कोई त्रुटि होगी तब भी आलोचना होगा. आलोचना तो सत्ता में रहने के बाद झेलना ही पड़ता है, और खास करके इस समय जो दौर चल रहा है, आप अच्छा काम करिए तब भी धरना प्रदर्शन या आलोचना करना इन लोगों की अहम भूमिका बन गई है. उसी का नतीजा है कि जहां देखिए वहां कांग्रेस साफ हो रहा है, कांग्रेस मुक्त भारत बन रहा है. उसी का नतीजा है. तीनों जितना चर्चा करे, विपक्ष उसको गलत ढंग से प्रवेश करे, उसका नतीजा उसको मिलता ही है.
जी, Amiben Yagnik, I want to come to you now. Do you think a lot of this has to do with very little opposition unity, and particularly within the Congress party? Because if you look at, what has happened in the Congress's Kerala unit, you've chosen J.B. Mathur, and Mathur was chosen after a tussle in the Congress ranks over picking a candidate. So do you feel at a time when the NDA is getting stronger and stronger, in the Rajya Sabha also, a more united Congress and a more united opposition could have done the trick?
Well, I may not go into the specifics you mentioned, but the opposition is doing its duty well. Even the other Congress party and the other parties who are in opposition, every one of us in the Rajya Sabha is raising a voice to be heard, to see that the parliament is a place where there is deliberation, debates, discussion, so that a legislation pass the test, the touchstone of absolute legislativeness and comes out as a good law. But as you have seen, whether it was the NDA bloc bigger or smaller, even if it was not bigger, the bills were bulldozed. If you see, there have been almost about 20 bills passed in a day, in a short time, and we have been shouting in the way and asking the honorable chairperson that we may be heard. So
with an ever stronger NDA now, do you think that this is going to be increased? The bulldozing of bills?
No, well, if you think that they were not doing it earlier when it was not a bigger block, the same thing happened, because the voices are not heard. We are not allowed to say. We don't follow the procedures which are in the Rajya Sabha, and that you have seen what has happened to the farm laws, and the MPs were suspended. They have been out for the whole session, and no fair hearing was given to them. Or what happened? We lost, and then finally, without even discussion, the farm laws were repealed at the behest of the government. So this kind of attitude, I think, whether the block is smaller or bigger.
दुबे जी, ये मेरा सवाल आपसे यही था कि इससे पहले जब आपके नंबर इतने नहीं थे जितने अब हैं, तब भी आप पर आरोप ये लगता था कि आप एकदम बिल्कुल सब कुछ ठेल दे रहे हैं, या यू आर रेल रोडिंग लेजिस्लेशन. देखिए, अब आप देख लीजिए, अब आप और आरोप लगेगा.
देश हित में, राष्ट्र हित में कोई भी कानून लाना है तो विपक्ष का भूमिका ही है विरोध करना. तो विपक्ष अपना भूमिका निभाएगा और जिसको इस राष्ट्र से लगाव होगा, राष्ट्र से मोहब्बत होगा, वो हम लोग के बिल को कहीं न किसी न ढंग से समर्थन करेगा ही करेगा।
नहीं दुबे जी, मतलब आप कोई भी बिल लाएंगे और उस पर अगर लोग विपक्ष सवाल उठाए तो इसको आपने राष्ट्र प्रेम से क्यों जोड़ दिया?
देखिए ऐसा नहीं है। देखिए अब जो भी देश चलाने के लिए, राष्ट्र को चलाने के लिए विधेयक तो लाना ही पड़ेगा, और जो इस समय वर्तमान में राष्ट्र हित में जो होगा उसको, उस कानून को तो पास करना ही पड़ेगा।
दुबे जी
तो
एक सेकेंड, विधेयक और कानून दो अलग अलग चीजें होती हैं।
करेगा
A law in parliament
तो नहीं करेगा,
and an ordinance are two totally different things. ऑर्डिनेंस, विधेयक जो है वो एक इमरजेंसी मेजर है, और सरकार पर आरोप यही लगता है कि आप उसको यू यूज इट एज अ टूल, कि बहस ना करानी पड़े तो विधेयक ले आओ।
ऐसा नहीं है कि बहस नहीं होती है, बहस तो होता है, लेकिन अब विपक्ष का काम है हर मुद्दा पे घेरता है विपक्ष।
ठीक है। थैंक यू वेरी मच आमीबेन याग्निक as well as Satish Chandube for joining us. Some comments on the coup app as well, where a Mr. Perfect has said Rajya Sabha was the place where the opposition had strength to oppose government policies that they think are against people. It seems like they are losing the last hope where they engage with the government face to face. Rohit Kapoor then writes, and he has a question. It is good for Constitution of India where opposition is losing control and democracy is in danger of misuse. We've come to the end of this edition of Left, Right and Centre. Nidhi joins you up next.